following is an encore presentation of JJ's Gluten Rant with JJ Virgin.
Welcome to the JJ Virgin Lifestyle Show with celebrity nutrition expert, fitness Hall of Famer, and four-time New York Times bestselling author, JJ Virgin. JJ is a warrior mom whose knowledge and expertise have helped change hundreds of thousands of lives with over 3.5 million podcast downloads and appearances on Dr. Phil, Dr. Oz, The Today Show, Rachel Ray, Larry King Live.
Whoa. This show is about you, not about me. I want to help you find practical, real-world ways to dial in your health and mindset so you can finally lose that weight and feel strong and energized. Stop settling for less than your personal best. It's time to find out how to look and feel better than ever. And I'll be right here with you the whole way.
All right. You know what I put down for the title for this show today? I literally put this in. I just typed this into the show notes as Gluten Rant by JJ. And here's the deal. I actually did a Facebook and Instagram live on this a month plus ago. And I was like, oh my gosh, I must do a podcast on this. And now here I am. It's better late than never. This article came out from CNN, I think maybe 2 months ago, made me crazy. And because it's just misinformation that's hurtful to all of us. So today I'm going to be doing a gluten rant, and I'm going to be debunking the CNN article, Gluten-free diet not healthy unless you have celiac disease or non-celiac gluten sensitivity. Crazy. So we're going to be yakking about that. I'm going to be breaking it down. You'll understand why this information is absolutely nothing that you want to follow. And before that, I've got to do a shout out. And I'm going to do a shout out today to MZ Pops from the UK. I'm going to the UK too, by the way. I'm going to the UK this year to speak for, I'm kind of fan crushing on Chris Stucker, and I'm going to go speak at his Youpreneur Summit. Excited. Plus, I get to go to London. How fun. So health and wellness advice that's research-based, 5 stars. I've lost 3 stones. How much is 3 stones? I've really got to look that up, but I've lost 3 stones so far following JJ Virgin's advice. I wasn't able to lose weight until I tried her elimination methods and discovered that dairy does me no good. The podcast complements her advice in the books and keeps me on track. Nice to have someone look at the research and discuss health and wellness with specialists. Really appreciate the work that goes into this podcast. Amazing. Thank you. Yeah, I will tell you, it does take it takes an army, it takes a village to put this thing together because we've got to track down the most amazing guests. One of the cool things I have are really cool friends in the biz. So we have to track them down, put these all together, sit down, record them all, and then produce them, edit them, get the cool sheets together. And we always try to make super great sheets off of the podcast so you can get all the notes from the podcast. Plus, I always throw in extra stuff so that you can get cool resources. So there's, a lot goes into this. So I super appreciate you leaving the review. And if you haven't left one yet, I would love to support you and shout you out to everyone for supporting us back. So love if you would do that. And while you're there, be sure to subscribe. And I'm back and ready to rant. All right, here we go. So this article on CNN talked about the risks of going gluten-free. So number 1, a gluten-free diet is not healthy unless you have celiac disease or non-celiac gluten sensitivity. Now, what I will share with you is that studies prove that gliadin, which is a protein found in gluten, causes intestinal permeability, ready for this, in all individuals, regardless of whether or not they have celiac disease. By the way, we will put the blog post for this in the show notes at jjvirgin.com/gluten rant. Because there is a study that shows this. What does that really mean? If you eat gluten, you get leaky gut. If you get leaky gut, you know what you get? Food intolerances. If you get food intolerances, then you start to have joint pain, weight gain, food cravings, fatigue, inflammation, none of the stuff that we're doing to find ultimate health. So it can hurt you. And, I do I've looked at a lot of testing, and what I found in my testing is that 40% of the people were showing some kind of gluten intolerance. Then I started helping hundreds of thousands of people pull gluten out of their diet. And yes, I got my butt kicked a little bit. I will tell you, from the more traditional health community, they were like, you're going to get deficient. I'm like, what are you getting deficient in? Which, by the way, we'll talk about coming up. But it was like, you'll get deficient. I'm like, deficient in exactly what? What you lose out on from pulling gluten out. And when you look at a lot of the wheat now has glyphosates in it. So I don't know, you're getting deficient in toxins. You're getting deficient in releasing zonulin that gives you leaky gut. It's just craziness. So you will see, this is all research too. We'll put the research links in. Let's talk about the next one. Ready? If you eliminate gluten from your diet and then get tested for celiac disease, you run the risk of a false negative result because an accurate diagnosis requires that you consume gluten. If this occurs, you may not be aware that you actually have celiac disease. It is estimated that 70 to 85% of the population with celiac disease is undiagnosed. Now, I will tell you that I kind of started talking about it, then I went sideways. Shocking, I know. But I will tell you that I've pulled gluten out of hundreds of thousands of people's diets. And it is rare that anyone ever tells me after they pull gluten out and really pull it out, get it out 100% for at least 3 weeks. That's the minimum. But once they do that, I just don't hear people say, oh, you know what? I started eating gluten again and I feel fabulous. I just never hear it. All of a sudden people say, oh, you know what? I'm eating gluten. I'm tired. My joints ache. I feel bloated. I never hear someone say I'm eating gluten. It makes me feel good. I just don't. So here are some of the information from that. You can actually find evidence of celiac-based damage to your gut and antibodies in your bloodstream after going gluten-free because the damage that's been done in most patients with celiac disease has been done over a period of years. And let's be real. The notion that you should keep hurting yourself so you can figure out there's something wrong is like saying, I know you have a broken arm, but I'm not going to cast it because I want to be sure you keep hurting your arm so you know it's broken. I mean, it just makes no sense at all. But I know this to be true because I had a client way back when I used to see people one-on-one, and she came in and she was a dancer. And she was stuffing her face with, she was eating so much food and she was emaciated. And everyone thought she was lying and she was anorexic. And so I looked at all of this and she had celiac disease. That's kind of one of the hallmarks of it. So we pulled the gluten out of her diet and she got totally stable in her weight, looked great. And then she went to her traditional doctor who wanted her to start eating gluten so that she could confirm it. I'm like, are you ever going to eat gluten again? She goes, no. I go, what's the reason? Then we don't need to confirm anything. It's out of your diet. You already know that when you eat it, it hurts you. All right, here we go. Next one. If you don't know that you have celiac disease, you won't follow the diet as strictly as you may need to in order for the intestinal lining to completely heal and prevent complications such as anemia, osteoporosis, and lymphoma. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't like to underestimate people's ability to think for themselves. If you know the dangers of gluten, or if gluten makes you feel terrible, I think that we're pretty smart. You'll probably stay away from it. That's a key thing here. If you know you've pulled gluten out of the diet. So in the virgin diet, I had people take gluten out along with the other high-fi foods and then give their body time to rebalance, to detox from those foods, to reduce inflammation, to start to feel what really feeling normal feels like, to heal the gut. Then you go back and you try a little. And then you go, wow, I feel crappy when I eat this. You will not go back. Like if you know something makes you feel rotten when you eat it, why would you eat it? Next one. Are you getting this article really made me mad because it was like, how can you be saying this stuff, CNN? Okay. If you unnecessarily cut out gluten, you may also be risking nutrient deficiencies. Gluten-free substitutes, if based on rice or tapioca, can be lower in fiber than their traditional counterparts and may not be fortified with B vitamins or iron. Heavy sigh. All right. Cutting out gluten doesn't put you at risk for nutrient deficiencies if you're eating a healthy diet. If you're not consuming a healthy diet, eating gluten still isn't going to fix that. If you're depending on whole wheat bread so that you get enough vitamins and fiber, then you are, you're making yourself so sick and overweight that doesn't even bear mentioning. If you're eating healthy greens and other non-starchy vegetables, low carbs, healthy fats, and clean lean protein, the amounts you should be, then nothing with gluten in it is going to be contributing to your dietary needs. So, the idea that we should be eating wheat bread because it's fortified with vitamins and so we can get our fiber it's just craziness. Again, eat a balanced diet. In the Virgin diet, I call it eating by the plate, loads of non-starchy vegetables from the rainbow, low carbs like wild rice and squash and sweet potato and beans, good clean protein, wild fish, grass-fed beef, pastured chicken, healthy fats, avocado, raw nuts and seeds. You get the idea. You're getting what you need. Okay, next one. Gluten-free products may be just as caloric as their gluten-containing counterparts. Well, that's true. And here's the thing. All right, I'll give you this one. I will concede this point, CNN, but the deal is gluten-free products are garbage. Like, I am not a fan of all this gluten-free. I call it gluten-free junk food. Like, what makes me crazy is you've got people who weren't eating, cookies and cake before, and then all of a sudden they're like, it's gluten-free. I'm like, just because it's gluten-free doesn't mean it's okay. So that does not make it okay. And so we don't want to get people jumping on that kind of bandwagon. So totally agree on that. Absolutely. 100%. Okay. Next one. We're getting there, guys. So breathe. I'm breathing. We're all breathing, but I just don't want you to have looked at that article and went, oh, okay, I should start eating gluten again. Oh my gosh, I'm saving you from that fate, although I know you're smarter than that. Okay. Cutting out gluten can also prevent you from getting to the root of the problem. For example, people may feel better cutting out wheat, but that's because they're sensitive to other components of wheat known as fructans, not gluten specifically. This is why I created the Virgin Diet. It walks you through testing foods one at a time to figure out which foods work for you and which foods don't. It doesn't mean it's okay to have gluten because another food may be bothering you. It's like in the analogy above, if you both sprain your arm and break it, the cast will still help you with the sprain. If you suspect that other foods might be bothering you, you can still go on to test those foods separately to create your long-term customized plan. But remember, gluten makes your gut leaky. Gluten increases intestinal permeability. If you've got that, you will create a situation where more foods will hurt you. You will become more intolerant to a wider variety of foods. Okay, final one. Adhering to a gluten-free diet can be socially challenging. Oh my gosh. Determining the real culprits for your digestive issues may help you enjoy more foods rather than eliminating suspected sources of discomfort that really aren't the true problem. All right. You know what's socially challenging? Lupus, autoimmune disease. And when you eat gluten, you put yourself at a high risk for leaky gut, which has been proven to cause autoimmune disease. And, I'll put some resources in here for my buddy, Dr. Tom O'Brien, and also when I did the podcast with Dr. Sarah Ballantine on the AIP protocol, and they talk at length about gluten, how gluten can impact autoimmune disease. Dr. Tom O'Brien wrote the book on it. And so here's the difference. Is it socially awkward to ask for gluten-free zoodles? I mean, really. And nowadays, actually, I think you're even cooler when you go gluten-free, right? The other thing I want to just do a little shout out for is I did build a product. Now, this isn't like I have celiac and I'm going to go eat wheat bread with this product. That's not the point of it. But what I did put together is a product that helps break down gluten, break down dairy, break down eggs, and break down soy. Why? Because those are the four of the top high food intolerance foods that I found. And what I wanted to make sure of is that when you are out eating, that you have something with you to protect you in case, you have any contamination. So that product's called Safety Net. I put that together for when I travel, because I travel a good half the time, and I take that with me so I'm never stuck. It's my little safety net to protect me because sometimes mistakes happen. Okay. Now, after the break, I'll be answering a listener's question, so stay with me. Welcome back. This is the time where I answer a listener's question. Now, before I do that, I want to remind you that you can pick up the show notes from today, and I've got some great links over to my buddies, Dr. Tom O'Brien and Dr. Sarah Ballantine, and some of the podcasts and info we got from them. You can get that at jjvirgin.com/gluten rant. And to continue the rant, this came in, and honestly, I get asked this so frequently in my social media when I'm doing my lives on Facebook at JJ Virgin Official and on Instagram at jj.virgin. I get asked about gluten-free products all the time. And, one of the recent ones from Ashley was, how about those gluten-free breads? Which ones are okay to use? Here's the thing. When I wrote the Sugar Impact Guide, it was very clear when you start to look at the impact of processed grains is they just kick up your blood sugar. And so just because something's gluten-free doesn't make it okay. I wasn't eating bread before, don't start eating bread now. So I want you to be careful with that. The best gluten-free products are ones that don't need to say gluten-free. That would be things like avocado and wild salmon and almonds, right? So, just because you're now gluten-free, don't go hunting out there for gluten-free cookies and cake and all that stuff. It's junk food. It's processed. But if you are looking for some things, I've been really loving Siete Foods cassava and coconut tortillas. So that's one that I will use. But I want you to be careful with what my buddy Dr. Alan Christensen calls the dry carbs. In fact, he did a really great distinction. We were doing a Facebook Live, I think, on this, and he was talking about wet carbs versus dry carbs. Wet carbs are things like wild rice or oatmeal. And you want to get, by the way, certified gluten-free oatmeal because they process it in the same plant as gluten-containing grains. But it would be oatmeal and beans and things that have water in them versus things like chips and cereal. And what he talks about is how, chips and cereal, I know for me, they are a big trigger, but the wet foods you just tend to eat slow and you don't overeat on. So that's one of the things I want you to think of. And I also want you to look at, will these things hijack my blood sugar? So a lot of these gluten-free grains that they've ground into flours still are going to create a big hijack on your blood sugar. So I prefer to do, like if I'm doing pasta, you can do shirataki noodles, you can do spaghetti squash, you can do zoodles, or I do lentil or black bean pasta. If I'm doing tortillas, I tend to look for more of the coconut ones. You can do almond ones. If I'm using flours, I use almond and coconut flour. That's what I like to go over to. And chips are just very hard for me because I tend to lose my mind on them. I will be absolutely honest. So my rule of thumb on any of those is just to use a little bit of a crunch on salad as a crouton and try to stay away from that. All right. Hope that helps. If you haven't jumped in and reviewed the show yet, I'd love to shout you out. Just go jump on over to iTunes, leave a review, and while you're there, be sure to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.
That's all for this episode of the JJ Virgin Lifestyle Show, which marks another step towards a healthier body and mind. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the show, and we'll talk to you next week.